Hi, welcome to the Fruitland Park Library's Community Spotlight. Today we're going to be talking with Mary Ann from the Lake County Water Authority about manatees in Fruitland Park. Come join the adventure. Well, welcome and thanks so much Mary Ann and Mark for coming out and telling us all about manatees. We're just so tickled to know that there's manatees here in Fruitland Park. You stopped at the library and said to me, "Oh, I've got to go check on the manatees at the Lake Griffin State Park." And I'm like, manatees? So can you tell me a little bit about when they were first found here and a little bit about them?
Yeah, sure. It's very exciting to us because we have never in the recorded history of Lake County until about 2015 had reports of manatees here. And you know, initially it was just like one or two, and they were like, that's kind of odd. We better go check that out. And sure enough, they were starting to frequent here. And the one that came first, her name was Leesburg, and she made her way all the way through the locks and down through the Silver River and the Ocklawaha River, and eventually ended up in Lake Griffin and then through to Lake Harris. And she was discovered at Venetian Gardens, so that's how she got her name, Leesburg. She was named for the location she was found. She was suffering from some cold damage, so they did take her to Lowry Park Zoo and rehabbed her, and they released her near where they had first, where they knew she would have frequented. And wouldn't you know it, she made her way all the way back down to Lake Harris.
Oh my, that's amazing and stuff. I had read that and I thought that was kind of cool.
With a calf.
With a calf,
yeah,
right,
she
right.
eventually, we've determined about a year and a half after the researchers released her and found her, that she was with her very first calf, and about a year later she was spotted again, and she had slipped her tracking device at that point, but they were able to find her, and she had had a baby calf. We named the calf Sunset. We did a county-wide naming contest, so the name was chosen was Sunset, and it turned out to be what, Mark? Male or female?
Male.
We had a baby boy.
Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. Yeah, and I heard that now females produce every 3 to 4, they're 3 or 4 years old before they even produce any, and then they carry their calf, they have one calf every 3 or 4 years.
Right, they don't produce very often. Twins are rare, and the calf will stay with them for up to 2 years.
Up to 2 years.
Right, right.
And I read that the small manatees are black when they're first born, and it takes about a month before they change to the gray color.
Exactly, exactly.
Right.
And so we also have, we've got some photographs of them with Leesburg and Sunset's swimming along, and their buddy Trevluck. So we're trying to let people know, because people are not aware. We're not accustomed to being in the Harris chain of lakes and looking out for manatees. So we're just asking people to use caution when they're boating. Post a sentry on the front of your boat, especially when you're on the shoreline. And we want to make sure that when you're about to start your propeller up, that you check around that propeller first.
Right.
Yeah, and that's particularly important in the winter time. That's when the manatees are most likely to come into the chain of lakes, because the water's shallow and warm relative to the ocean. And what you said about the propellers of the boats, the lower unit of a boat motor will stay warm even after the boat's turned off, like the engine of a car. And they want to be warm. So they're almost always in very shallow water, and they're also curious. So that might be another reason why they would tend to be close to boats.
Yeah.
Right.
Mark has a really interesting picture of a friend sent him of a manatee right at a boat propeller. right here in the Harris chain of lakes. So they're very curious creatures, and we do have on our website, it's www.lcwa.org for Lake County Water Authority. We do have information about the Lake County manatees here, and you'll notice the map from Leesburg's telemetry before she slipped her tagging collar, that she went around every little nook and cranny around the perimeter of the lake. She didn't cut through the center, she went right along the shoreline. Very curious creatures, very inquisitive.
Oh my. And one thing I'm going to make sure that I put up is if anyone sees a sick or injured manatee, or if you accidentally hit one with your boat propeller, that they make sure they call the Florida Wildlife Alert Hotline, and the number is 888-404-3922.
Right.
So
And right now we actually have a researcher from the Clearwater Marine Institute who is studying the manatees right here in Lake County. So because none of them are currently tagged, the only way we know where they are is by citizens calling that hotline and reporting a sighting immediately. Whether or not the calf or the cow looks ill or is in distress, they want to know every single sighting no matter what, because right now that's the only way they can track them.
Oh my.
Yeah, we've had some terrific cooperation from neighbors right here in Fruitland Park and Lady Lake. We've been out a dozen times this winter on the, because they've called and said, hey, there are manatees near my boat dock or something like that. So that's all we've got right now, is that word of mouth and cooperation from Lake County citizens, which has been great.
And we are excited, and the citizens of Lake County are excited too. This is something completely new in the history of Lake County. And these guys, our research calls them a little roly-poly potatoes, because they do look a lot like a big old fat potato. And speaking of weight, Mark, the average size of them.
Yeah, the average size or weight of an adult manatee would be right around 1,000 pounds and about 10 feet long. So they're pretty big, and some are bigger than that, of course.
But the largest one recorded weighed 3,500 pounds. And the longest one was about 13 feet long. But on average, about 1,000 pounds, 10 feet, give or take. So, that's what we'll expect to see normally.
And they eat grass, right? I mean, they're herbivores. They only eat plants. And about how much plants do they eat in a day?
Well, an adult would probably eat about 100 pounds of plant life in a day. And you're right, they are herbivores, so they don't eat fish, they don't eat anything else but plants, mostly seagrass and things like that, which is another reason why they hang out close to the shoreline. That's where their food is.
You don't want, when you're an animal that large and you need to eat 10 to 30% of your weight every day, you don't want to waste energy trying to find your food. You want to go where you know the food is going to be. And the reason we see them here in the wintertime is because we do have springs in the Harris chain of lakes. And the water that comes out of those springs, on average, is about 72 degrees all year long. Now, manatees are just like people. We don't want to go in water that's 65, 55 degrees, that will cause hypothermia for us. Same thing with manatees. They're not fat. They are literally big bones, and their lung structure and their stomach takes up a huge space. They don't have blubber like seals do to keep them warm. So they come here in the wintertime because the ocean temperatures drop into the 50s and 60s. They come to our springs because it's 72 degrees, so it's a little more tolerable. And Mark and I were watching some that couldn't find a spring, but they were doing something else instead.
Yeah, they would get in near the sandy bottom or the muddy bottom of Lake Griffin, and they would kind of roll around in the mud, which which kept them a little bit warmer.
Coating
Yeah,
them. Yeah, kind of coating them.
Yeah, that's
All
right.
right, Marianne, can you tell me why the manatees are not bothered by alligators? You would surely think that they would hurt them.
You know, it's actually kind of funny because there is a manatee that frequents Blue Springs State Park, and they named that manatee Gator. Not because the gators were bothering him, but because he was pestering the gators. He would come up along to them while, you know, the gators are kind of laying on the bottom of the water body. He would come up and pester them, and they would move away, then he would go around. I think he wanted to be buddies with them, I don't know. But what we do have trouble with is the manatees when the researchers tag them. Basically what it is like right around the base of their tail, there's a little belt, and then a line that takes a floater up to the top of the water. They think the alligators think that's the coolest thing, and they will go and they will bite at that little floating transponder, and it will sink, and it'll get messed up, and the researchers have to track them down. So if you see a manatee that has a tag on it, there is information on that tag as well. So you want to make sure you get that information. It'll be color coded. Was it brown striped, or what did you see? Anything you can tell the researchers is helpful. Okay, all right. And these are some of the signs that you'll start seeing. Well, actually, all of the public boat ramps now have Florida-friendly boating signs and caution manatee signs on the Harris chain. And then we'll also be starting to put those up at the private marinas to make everybody aware of how they can help us to protect manatees. And again, if you see any animals at all that need to report, then you just call 888-404-FWCC, which is 3922.
Well, thank you very much, Marianne and Mark. This has been a pleasure. This has been really informational, and I'm sure everyone in Fruitland Park is going to love all this information.
We appreciate the chance. Thank you, everyone.
All right, you have a good day.